her parents passed away, Suzanne was going to inherit $17 million from her parents. Suzanne von Richthofen. She was well educated and she was pretty. Summer 1999, she started practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's where she met Daniel. And they ended up becoming a boyfriend and girlfriend. So the parents being okay with the relationship did not last long. He wasn't going to school. He just wasn't doing anything with his life. And they didn't like that. And they didn't want that for their daughter. So they were really pressuring Suzanne to end it with Daniel. So naturally, of course, she's not going to break up with him. No. She asked her mom and dad if they would buy her own apartment. That way she could live with Daniel and she could have some freedom. Her father quickly shut that down. You can move out, just make money, get a job, make your own money, and you could afford your own place. Suzanne did not like that idea. So then finally Suzanne's parents gave an ultimatum. So they're saying, break up with him or you're not going to get your allowance. That simple. But a lot of us don't think to do this next thing. This is a mess. Okay, October 31st, 2002. Suzanne and her brother went to a cyber cafe to play video games and meet up with friends. Then Suzanne met up with Daniel and Daniel's brother. His name is Christian. So Daniel's 21 and Christian is 26. So earlier that day, Suzanne had deactivated the home security cameras at the parents' house, at her house. She deactivated them. She turned off the alarm system, and this would trigger the alarm if somebody opens the door. Obviously, the security cameras would be there to catch anybody coming in and out, so she turns all of that off. Suspicious. Daniel, the boyfriend, and Christian, the brother, pull into the home. She opens up the gates, and they pull into the garage. They put on their hoods from their jackets and they head into the home. So Suzanne goes in first. Suzanne goes up the stairs to make sure that her parents are indeed there sleeping. She comes back downstairs to let the boys know they're upstairs. Handle it. She didn't say that, but I think that's what she said. Suzanne sat on the couch and both of the boys headed upstairs to the parents' room. The two brothers had iron bars with them, and they started to beat the parents, but the parents did not die. They were still alive and they were holding on. Because they were being attacked, the parents obviously were screaming and yelling. They were being loud apparently. So that's when Daniel decided to run to the bathroom and grab wet towels, put it over their face to drown out the noises. Guess they also tried to strangle the parents with the towels as well. Apparently, the parents were still not dying. They were not dying. So, of course, because these are bright young men, they decide to go downstairs and grab a jug of water because, Daniel goes downstairs to grab a jug of water because he got this idea to drown the parents with a jug of water. Now, that's all I could find was that Daniel was trying to drown the parents with this jug of water, but I don't really know what that means. And then I read one website that said they just strangled them with a towel, but okay. This did indeed kill Suzanne's father. So Suzanne's father passed away, but Suzanne's mother was still holding on to dear life. So the boys, Daniel and Christian, they waited until she died. Suzanne went upstairs to make sure, are they dead? And then the three of them came up with a plan to stage the scene. They wanted to make it look like there was a robbery in the house. So they're so dumb and sloppy. They scattered some papers around, but it wasn't messy, I guess. It was you could tell it was a perfect little scatter of papers. They also took a bunch of money from the parents' room. They just kind of shuffled things around to make it look like it was indeed a break-in. This part of the plan that they had was just done so poorly. They did not think this through. They staged a break-in and the break-in didn't even look like a break-in. Apparently they left behind some important stuff, they left behind a cell phone. It was sloppy. But the one thing that they did take off with was a ton of money. Good for them. They're going to start their life with all this money. Cha-ching. So then their idea was, okay, well, let's go check into a hotel and use that as an alibi. See, we were at a hotel. And then Christian, Daniel's brother, he went to a fast food restaurant, again, to use as an alibi. I'm assuming showing the receipt. At this time, he was at this fast food restaurant. So they were trying to get their alibi straight. So Suzanne picks up her brother from the internet cafe. They go back to the house, and then that's when they discover the family together. They instantly called the police, and when the police got there, they were told that somebody broke in and killed their parents, but the police knew by looking at the scene, no, this looks a little fishy. Police suspected that it was somebody close to the family just because of how it was done, somebody who knew them. They also noted that the alarm system was turned off, so somebody had to be inside of the house, and that was a red flag. This break-in there were papers kind of like scattered perfectly around. It just seemed a little bit more planned than the family was making it out to be. So they suspected sister and brother in general, but then they narrowed it down to Suzanne. And the reason that they narrowed it down to just Suzanne was because it was her 19th birthday the next day, and she had friends over to the house and her boyfriend, and they were hanging out celebrating her birthday and swimming in the pool. Her parents just died, and you're having a party? Super suspicious. Come on, girl. She's sloppy. So that's when investigators really cued in on Suzanne and also her boyfriend. So Christian, the brother, Daniel's brother, he ended up buying a motorcycle like a couple days later after the murders, and he paid cash for it. This rose red flags. Christian was the first one to get arrested, and he paid in all $100 bills, so you got something to do with this. After being questioned by police, Suzanne eventually broke down and she confessed to killing her parents. And this actually turned into like a huge media focused case because of the big contrast between the two brothers, Daniel and Christian, and Suzanne. People did not want to believe that Suzanne had anything to do with this. They were all on her side. They're like, no, she didn't do it. There's no way. The brothers did it. There was actually a TV interview with Suzanne, and she was talking about what had happened, playing the victim essentially. But there's this part where she was getting coached by her attorney. The cameras were rolling, and this guy leans in and tells Suzanne, when you're talking about it, make sure to cry and cry loud and like cry hard, because then people will believe you more. So the cameras caught him coaching Suzanne how to act, and they rolled it on TV. So that's when everyone was like, okay, she did it. We take everything back. She did it. Honestly, it was looking like Suzanne could have potentially gotten away with this just because everyone was on her side. But that TV interview is what really sealed the deal. July 2006, 4 years after the murders, Suzanne, Daniel, and Christian were put on trial for first-degree murder. Suzanne pointed the finger and put the blame on Daniel and Christian, saying it was their idea, and they were the ones who did it. Her lawyer also said that there was no motive, and she was directed to follow through with the crime by Daniel because she looked up to him as a god, and it was just, she was obsessed with him. She was so in love with him. That's why she went along with it. But Daniel and Christian pointed the finger back at Suzanne, saying it was all her idea. They followed through with it because they were going to get some of the money. In court, they had a motive. They knew what the motive was and why Suzanne did it. If her parents passed away, Suzanne was going to inherit $17 million from her parents. Prosecutors said that Susanna was the mastermind behind all of it, and they wanted to give her 50 years in prison. That was the goal. July 22nd, 2006 is when Suzanne, Christian, and Daniel all got sentenced. So Suzanne ended up getting 40 years in prison. Christian and Daniel got 38 years in prison. In 2009, Suzanne appealed. She wanted to get house arrest, which it was denied. In 2011, Suzanne's younger brother, Andreas, he sued his sister for half of the inheritance she got from her parents. So Brazil's different with their laws, obviously. So she was still going to be able to get the money when she gets out of jail. If it was in her name, she was still going to be able to get the money. So even though she went to prison, she has something to look forward to when she gets out. As long as it's in her name, it's still hers. But her younger brother had sued her for half of the inheritance. So he ended up winning and he got everything. Anyways, I hope you have a good day today. You make good choices. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I will be seeing you guys later.